Hello, welcome to I'm Angry, Annoyed, Amused podcast. You're on with Mike. So next to me is Matt.
What's up?
Over there's Johnny.
Yo, yo.
Across the table is the other Mike.
Hello.
We're doing cultural appropriation.
Sure.
I thought we were doing
We're
hospital.
doing hospitals.
No, we're doing
I thought we said we're doing culture
appropriation.
because we're enjoying margaritas.
Oh, okay.
I mean, this is kind of an old. I think cultural appropriation has sort of gone away from like the mainstream.
I don't think drinking a margarita is cultural appropriation. But
It's not. I'm confused. Yeah. I'm
No, I
confused
don't.
Why,
I don't.
Why the topic even
So-
came to you.
Well, it came because my dad was talking about a mini tradition that he started where when there's like, I guess an ethnic holiday,
Yeah, culturally based holiday.
he does a food. What? Like culturally based. I guess
I
not
guess-
ethnic.
I guess it is.
Whatever the word is.
cultural.
That's why I said.
Well, I'm saying 'cause
culturally based holiday.
But I mean, okay.
I do a little
Just
food and drink thing.
food and drink
Based on
that
the culture
based
that
on the
it-
culture.
the
right?
So
It's
that's
like
not
Cinco
allowed?
de Mayo. Well,
I don't
it
know.
hasn't been in the past. I think it's kind of. I think cultural appropriation was one of those things that was like really fought for by like the super like liberal out there left like woke people.
Right.
And it just lost because I think most people are like, this is stupid because
Right.
it is a dumb idea. It still exists in certain
On
ways.
Cinco de Mayo, if I put Mexican music on and I make, tacos and enchiladas and I have margaritas, is that cultural appropriation?
It could be. I
It-
guess.
I don't
Or do
think
or do
no.
I have to be
Cultural
So there's, like-
appropriation.
I have to be wearing
cultural-
a sombrero.
If you wear a
cultural-
sombrero, that's
cultural
when you cross the line.
appropriation- Cultural appropriation would be if you tried to insert yourself into a culture that you're not belonging.
Well, I do for that day.
But you're not inserting yourself into it. You're having a meal that aligns.
I don't know if
with
that's.
the
Wouldn't
culture.
people be?
I don't know if that's
That's
necessarily.
that's what it was. But then you're right. Then that kind of like
Well,
that.
so there's, like, an
spread out
academic-
into people trying to push any celebration of culture outside of that culture as cultural appropriation. But that's never what it was.
Yeah,
It
well,
was
there's like an academic look at it.
You
It
can't
was
wear
like-
certain
That's
costumes
that
on
was the
Halloween.
big
Right.
one. That was
So,
really the
but
big
isn't
one.
that the
I
same
think.
as me cooking their meal on that day?
No, I
Well,
think
I
it
think
is.
that's why.
I always thought
that's
it's
why
a compliment.
That's why the Halloween
too.
costume thing kind of spun out too far. Like cultural appropriation with dressing, for example, like started kind of with like Justin Bieber. That whole thing that
Justin
the
Bieber.
way that label tried to present him was the same way that black people were being
What
represented
happened with
in
Justin
hip-hop.
Bieber? Because I didn't know nothing about that.
This was years and years ago.
There's
They-
just general.
they-
This is one of the ways I think that cultural appropriation is still talked about, even though they might not always use the term. Is it's generally looked down upon from like, not across like, not by everybody, but like the people who would push for cultural appropriation to like be a thing. Right? Call it like the liberal left, whatever you want. They don't think like white people should rap.
No,
Because-
that's not the style. It's not the style. That's a different argument. It was the way that he was presented. He was a singer.
No,
Definitely
you're
a
talking
pop
about Justin
singer.
Bieber. I just mean larger, or okay, fine, or how to dress, right? Like if I, right, go out and I decide to dress like I see most black people dress, right? Like I have an idea of what like a black person dresses like,
Dress
a stereotype, right? And that's going to be very dependent on like I'm from New York, so black people in New York might dress a certain way. I don't think like they all do. This is a general. The whole argument about cultural appropriation is stereo. Like you have to stereotype to be able to do it. So I'm not trying to stereotype. I'm just saying.
Appropriating Mexican culture, but because nobody saw it, I
No,
can't
but
get in
you're
trouble.
Well,
you weren't culturally appropriating by just cooking a meal and eating it. It's
Why not?
not
Well, he's trying to
cultural
emulate, like,
appropriation.
Mexican-
because you're not inserting yourself into the culture. So this is where the rap argument comes in.
Right.
I don't
It's
get the
when
inserting yourself into the culture thing.
Like, because you're trying to profit
Because
off. You're taking a
you
thing
are
that
not.
exists that is not your culture, right?
Right.
You're taking it, and then you're going. I think largely the only way it comes up nowadays, why like I brought up rap, is because it really gets brought up again when you're profiting off of it.
So
Like
now
because
it
people
only-
don't really.
So it's only when you're profiting now.
So if I
It's-
charge for
it's
this,
just
So if you were opening a Mexican
charge for
restaurant,
dinner,
then you're having a problem.
Let me put it this way.
Yeah.
Cultural appropriation.
Kind of.
Cultural
But yes,
appropriation.
that's actually true.
In-
If a
Right.
bunch of white people own a taco stand,
it's gonna be right.
that's going to be brought up.
Right.
People are going to say they're culturally
Well,
appropriating.
but
You know
then-
how many Spanish people own
But then
Italian?
it
it
doesn't.
kind-
It never
pizzerias
works.
now?
What if
It
I'm
doesn't
only-
work in the
what
other.
if I'm
None of
only
this stuff
making
works in the
white
other
guy
way.
tacos?
It depends.
The stuff doesn't work in the other way.
You can open up.
No,
can
do you
open
mean
up-
everything works
No.
against the white
You can
only?
open up a
Well,
place.
these kinds
well,
of
that's
things,
true.
yeah.
You can
These
open
social
up a place,
things,
You
definitely.
can open up a place and sell tacos, but it depends on the way you present it. Like what would the name be? What is the how is the is the menu fully in Spanish, a language you don't speak?
Yes,
right?
of course. You want to draw in the people.
That's cultural. That is cultural appropriation. It's when you try to
And why is
insert
that bad,
yourself
though?
into
Why
a
is that
culture.
bad?
It's when you try and insert yourself to a
Why
culture
is
you
that
don't
bad?
believe in to then trick
So why is that bad?
people.
That's not about tricking.
Well, okay. First
He's
of all, you're
clearly
not
a white
asking me.
guy.
I don't obviously agree with this stuff. I'm just giving
No,
like
I'm asking Matt.
I don't think he does either.
Why it's
Matt
bad?
cares. Matt cares.
I'm not. Am I? It's
See?
it's bad.
Yeah, maybe a little bit.
Matt
I'm not
cares.
against
stand
it. I'm not
corrected.
against it. I think you're
Matt
free
cares-
to open
Matt
up
is so
a
left. I
taco
don't know why
restaurant,
no one
and-
sees
and
that.
I'm okay with white people rapping, though. I will say I say all the time there isn't a white rapper I like. I think they're all
Eminem?
bad. I don't like him. I think he's bad.
No, he
I
doesn't.
think they're all
He doesn't
bad.
like him
That's a
because he's.
preference. That's
It's
There's
not
lot
a
of black
There's nothing you can
rappers.
do there.
There's a lot
There's
of
He
nothing
black
doesn't
rappers
like
that would
him because he's
disagree with you.
white.
I
That's
think
it.
it's,
That's fine.
I think it's okay.
It's still an
not
opinion.
because they're white. It's
No,
not
it's
because
'cause
they're
he's
white. I
white.
think it just so happens that white people can't rap. But
What?
it's fine.
That makes no sense.
I again,
Talk
it's
about
not a it's not a
stereotyping.
race
That
thing.
that is such a racist towards white
It's-
people.
I guess so,
White people
but
can't rap.
I guess
Well, you
so.
know,
Hold on.
The lefties do like to keep everybody in their
waiting-
lane.
I'm
Let me
waiting
show
for
you.
Right, that
to
is
hear.
true. That's
Hold on.
that's the cultural
I'm
appropriation.
I'm gonna rap right now.
ethos.
Okay.
Right.
I'm
Well,
gonna
listen,
I'm gonna drop
listen,
some beats.
Eminem can rap. Eminem
Here we
can
go.
rap, but I don't like him.
No, you're gonna prove his point. You're gonna prove his point.
Okay.
Anyway, my point being, I'm just saying it's funny. It's funny for people who know me because I say it's not because they're white. I just happen to think that they're bad.
That's such a racist
But
thing, man.
sure, but it's not because they're white. It's just because they don't rap.
Oh, I forgot. If it's white, it's not
really-
racist.
Like, look, it's just
No, there are black rappers I don't.
That's
like
not a
too. There
racist
just happens
statement.
to
He's
be
being a
any-
racist.
There are not any white rappers
not.
I like. Is not.
So
racist.
how did it
It's a
evolve?
fact.
Like, first of all, I don't understand it at all. Because if you're imitating or maybe emulating is the word.
it really. I
Someone
think
else, it should be really complimentary.
it started. I think it started, or maybe not started, but like
I think
the
you're right
crux
about
of it.
profitability.
Profitability is a big thing because, like, really, what? Okay, this is like mom and pops, right? Like, if you just opened up a storefront and you're like authentic Mexican tacos, would that be a huge issue that would get blown up? Probably not. I don't know. Maybe if they're like, this is a white family. What are they talking about? Authentic Mexican tacos.
They're
If
still
you then
made
said-
authentically.
Well, right, but or if the argument was, well, I went to Mexico for a year and I learned how to make tacos.
Right, which people do.
And then I brought back. I happen to be a white guy, but I lived in Mexico. I worked in a kitchen. I learned how to make them. That still wouldn't pass the scuff because the idea is he's white, and you're profiting off of a Mexican product, right? So, but like again, I don't like with mom and pops. It's a lot more. It's hard to say really, but I think really where it comes in, like again, just using like rap as a large thing, or a better example would be because we're talking about like food right now, is like Chipotle, right? Chipotle is like serving Mexican food.
But it's a diversion.
But it's an American, right? Look, again, I'm against all this. I'm just saying what the argument is that they're profiting off of like you're being vaguely Mexican. You make burritos and quesadillas, but nothing about like your corporate structure is Mexican. It's just that you make Mexican food. So you're profiting off and you're stealing
borrowing
from
the
the
culture
Mexican
without
culture
involving the culture.
without using Mexican people. Because but this is the undergirding of this whole argument is that you have a culture that you're born into, and that's your culture, and you're not allowed to veer outside of it in certain directions.
so you
right?
also
Like,
can't sell cocaine.
well, no, like okay, and this isn't this.
on Cinco de Mayo,
I
they
can't-
transport cocaine
look.
between houses
you can't call this a fact.
in order to be authentic.
You can't call this a fact because it's like an argument. But I think it's very clear that it was always just white people. Like it was always like, if you're white, you can't do this stuff. A black person
really
could
what it
certainly
comes
make
down to, I
tacos.
guess. Yeah.
Mexicans
And
can
nobody would say
certainly,
anything.
I don't know,
They make all our Italian food.
cut their hair into dreads or
do.
whatever.
Most
Like
of the restaurants.
No,
they
that-
make
cultural
the hair-
appropriation.
the
The
hair
white
one-
people having dreadlocks.
Wait,
is-
wait, wait.
The
Matt's got a
hair
problem
one
with
is
the drug.
big. The hair one is big against everybody.
But you
It's-
agree with
can't
that
be
one?
I don't think
Hispanic
I
and
disagree with
have-
that entirely.
No,
No,
no, no,
the-
it is.
Mexicans say the N word. Like
Yeah, that's a big one too. That's also.
I
like
don't
a-
think it is. I don't think
It
it's
is.
that. I
No,
think
no.
most people.
No.
Wait,
not
do you
most
agree
black
with the
people.
hair
I don't
thing?
know, dude.
Do I think that
Like
if
with
you don't
dreads?
have black hair, you shouldn't get black hairstyles?
No, dreads.
Do you want dreads?
I don't, but I have no problem with a white person having dreads.
I mean, white
Or a
people-
girl.
I think
Or
I
woman-
have
think
dreads with
that's
their
a-
natural hair.
But they were
Right,
dreads.
right. Like George could.
No,
Yeah, like there are
Wait,
plenty
hold
of
up.
white people.
I'm not going
You don't
back.
have to
whole
get,
far-
like, a
But
fake
didn't
hair.
Vikings have dreads?
They did.
Yeah.
Well, they had braids.
They had braids.
Not dreads. technically.
Okay. Oh,
It's
But yeah, braids is another thing. Braids is considered
that's another.
to be widely a black cultural
well, it depends.
thing.
It depends on the kind of braids.
Right, like not a French braid, like I don't know what they're called, but like the whatever.
It's too much.
You know what I mean? You can picture like
box
generally
braids.
more like the braids that black people would have versus like a French
What
braid
do
that a
they-
white
what's
girl
the
would tie her
difference in a
hair into.
braid?
It's when
It's-
you're changing your hair to match more.
It's a compliment. You like the style.
I agree that it's a compliment.
I
don't
that
think
it's
there's a lot of good
compliment.
foundational arguments.
I think that saying it's a compliment is one-sided, and that was the issue of it from the.
So
the
here's this thing.
is that it's like you're giving me a compliment that I don't even think is really that you're saying it's a compliment to me, and therefore I should accept.
I'm not saying it's a compliment to you. I'm saying it's a compliment to the style. I really like it, and I want to do it.
I want to do it.
It's just a general. The whole argument is like there's a general. You could call it predatory, maybe, of like, oh, so white people hate black culture and
So
black
this is
people.
all-
I'm just saying. Hold on.
No, but this is all really white people.
Yeah.
Only.
It's only white
Only
people.
white people can culturally appropriate.
100%.
Well, because Mike is right. The focus came on exploitation in the form of profit by white-owned businesses. That's why it started as like, it's white people doing it because I think it was big in the music industry. That was
I think
the
it
biggest
was.
thing.
I think
That's why
that was
rap
like a
the
big
biggest
part
thing
of
to
it.
bring up is
Speaking of
because it's
music industry,
white-owned
you said it.
labels.
Did you know now that because of Beyonce and stuff, they're like apparently country is originally all black.
Well,
And I
there's,
know
there's,
it stems from that.
this is kind of a.
This is a long going.
This is a long thing.
This
There-
has been forever.
There is like a. I don't know what you would call it. There's a name for it, but like there's kind of a movement almost or a belief that like you. Kind of like that black people started like all kinds of like all music is black, right? And it's like
oh, all music now.
well, I mean, you could call Beethoven and Bach and say like that's white music, but they would say any American like Elvis, right, is apparently, and this may be true from like I don't know, like
Yeah,
a
rock and-
musical
Yeah, he used to-
etymology, but
he
he
used to
stole,
watch him and like,
he
yeah.
stole from like black jazz musicians,
But
and,
isn't
like they
that
were the
ev-
original.
Isn't that everybody?
Well, this is my thing about
Well,
cultural
is that
appropriation.
it grows over time. Like something like music, the biggest argument against it is just like it changes over time, and people are going to make the kind of music that they like, and it, you know.
You take it and you make
But
your own.
the argument that then developed from cultural appropriation was like, yeah, that's true. Most people aren't going to sit here and say like, yeah, if you're white, you literally should not be rapping and you shouldn't be making hip hop music.
I mean, some
But
people
it's-
definitely made that argument.
So here's
no,
some.
they did, but
I have
then
a
it
question.
evolved
It's
into now like, okay, but there's a certain way to go about it, right? So Eminem was the biggest counter to that. It was just like, okay, but what about Eminem? And as you said, a lot of black rappers came forward and were like, I think Eminem's one of the best people to ever do it. And are you okay?
I'm sorry, I was humming.
Okay, can you not? Like,
Wow. Holy shit, he's feisty
You're
tonight.
doing it on the mic.
yeah, like into the mic.
Where
and
else am I
talking.
gonna hum to? I want the world to hear my hum.
We're recording
Yeah,
audio.
It's like,
Yeah, audio.
what are you doing? Why?
We're talking music.
It was giving you background music.
Thank you, Michael.
Thanks. I
On
didn't
the
ask
mic?
for it.
Dude, you should have got here later then.
Anyway, what was I saying about? About it's there's a way to go about it that's respectful to the culture. That was kind of like the way cultural appropriation developed into the argument of like, okay, it's not all cultural appropriation. Like I said, what you do to me, as far as I know about cultural appropriation, not that I'm Mexican, but I don't think it is, and it's because there's a line that's being respectful of the culture, and then there's a line that's just using it fully for your own profit, and that was kind of.
And there's sort of a another part of this, I guess you could say, of the whole argument of cultural appropriation, particularly when it comes to white people, because that is always the argument's always like white people can't do it generally. Like I don't, the argument was never like, oh, we noticed by and large Asian people are mimicking this culture and we hate it.
They do a lot of Tex-Mex now.
I'm not. It's not. I'm not.
I'm just saying.
I'm not trying to make like a pro argument for it and saying like, oh, these people should stay in their boxes.
Saying
I'm
what
just
the
saying what
narrative
the
was.
general thing.
I'm just sharing.
And another part of it, particularly when it's white people, is like, oh, so you don't like black people and you don't like you find black hair to be unprofessional and you won't hire us, but then you'll have your daughters go to wherever and get their hair braided like a black girl. And so the whole argument is just like you can't take things out of our culture and devalue them while disrespecting our people en masse is the idea. Right? It's like with Mexicans.
Can't say you hate rap.
It's like,
love Eminem. That's
right. Like if somebody's like, I think rap music is the degradation of society, and
But is that what's
they're
happening?
doing all these.
that was an
it's
argument.
not-
for-
I'm not-
There
I don't
were a lot
think-
of people.
I can't see that happening.
said
If
that,
you
but it
like
wasn't
Eminem,
the-
you
that's
like
just-
rap.
overarching.
See, the problem
it wasn't
that I'm having is
the
the only
larger
cultural appropriation I ever knew was this low scale. I can't wear certain costumes on Halloween.
That's part,
The
but that's
kid-
part and parcel of
The
all this
kid
stuff.
at the Washington.
Well, that
game
became
when
a
he
big
had
one.
The face paint on.
That's
got in
where
trouble.
I
Like,
think
that is
it
like,
went too far, and that's where
that's the only
Yeah.
cultural
like-
appropriation.
Oh, he's the
Like
one who had
how-
the
When it got,
Indian,
like, you know,
how
the
Mike
Indian
said-
the
face.
Nicky Mackies. I didn't know anything about
how
this.
Mike
Like,
said
This
it-
is all this is like the narrative around
Right.
it, and then
How-
that just became
how Mike said it
a
got
venue.
it kind of got it's not really a thing that's brought up very often anymore. I think is because when it got to that point, people were like, now we're drawing a line that, you know, it's just impossible to say one or the other.
Yeah, like when
and so that's where the conversation kind of stopped when it got to like, oh, you can't wear this certain Halloween costume, and then people were kind of like, well, now what can I do and can't I do, and how am I supposed to go about it while being respectful if like I can't, you know, wear something to a sports game.
Yeah,
And
like
so
a lot of
that's where it
things.
stopped. That's where the conversation.
Like a lot of these kind of social, I would say they pretty much all, these kinds of things all come from the left, like along racial lines. I mean, it starts from like more of an academic, like what does it mean to profit off of a culture that isn't yours? Is that okay? You know, is there like a logical thing here, right? From an academic sense, and then it gets taken over by people going, oh, I don't think white people should be able to do this thing because it's not a white thing, right? And then always the argument's like, well, generally, I mean, like the counter argument will go like, well, then what do you mean? Like white people do this thing and everybody else does this thing now too. And it's like, well, white people don't have a culture, which is definitely like pretty far reaching as a concept on the left, that like there is no white culture. Everybody else has like their own kind of ethnic cultures, but like white culture is just,
How is that?
it's not a thing I
Our
believe in.
culture is we take everything from everybody else.
Well, right, but also
That's where
part of the white thing.
Maybe American white, but
No, but this
I mean,
is part
we
of the thing.
also-
Is like Italians can have a culture.
Europeans-
Well, no.
Italians can have a culture.
Yeah.
Germans, whatever, like any
Greeks
group.
can-
so
Greeks have
English
an
can
ethnic-
have
Sure,
all
It's just
those
'cause
white
white,
can.
white as
because
a
white
race.
isn't an
White
ethnic.
American can't have.
Well,
culture.
so yes, that
That's
was
pretty
the
much it.
argument, but I would argue
then
that there is definitely
there's
a clear white American culture of its own that doesn't have to be like
That's right.
Italian based or whatever. But they would say there isn't. That's just
Yeah, but
'cause
black
it's not,
American
You're saying it's an
doesn't
American.
have the same culture of African.
Right, but
100%, but it's
so
ethnically.
the idea behind
you know what
that
I mean?
argument,
Like,
and I don't agree with
grounded
it.
or whatever.
I think white America has a culture. Definitely,
I think they do too.
I think that it does, and
Wait,
and
cowboys
from
and
what
Indian.
I've seen, most people.
Sorry, cowboys
From what I've
Native
seen,
Americans.
most people
and Native American.
That's not seen as a
at this
cultural
point
thing.
in time agree with that white America has a culture.
Here's the one question I
But
have.
the,
Or go ahead,
the-
finish your thing. For a
where
second.
that kind of argument stems from is the fact that you're right. It's a Black America culture, but the reason that cultures of different places that are majority Black is all grouped together in this sense is because of like this diaspora that was created by slavery. Diaspora means like a bunch of people from different places were spread out of where they're from, and so that's kind of why it's like now it's a collective where like white people around the world don't have a collective culture because they weren't separated by specifically anything forcefully.
It's like Black
What about
America had to make a
Australians?
new culture because
Right.
they were ripped from their old cultures.
What about
As
Australians?
like way back,
Now,
like talking starting foundational
white America
Black
has
America.
a culture. By now, it didn't initially. It probably didn't for a long time. Everybody kind of celebrated their own culture from wherever European country they were from. But now, at this point, 200 years after the country's founding, there did develop a culture around white people in the time that the country developed, and that's kind of again one of those like stopping places for the conversation. Is once it got to that, and it became a battle of like. There is a culture for white people in America and there isn't. That's kind of where most people were like, maybe, you know, we're not going to make this argument so harshly anymore.
Yeah,
'cause,
or like
you
the
know,
like a
can't really
famous
fight
example
against
was like how you mentioned with the costumes is like you're really gonna say like my 6-year-old daughter or niece or whatever can't wear a Moana costume. Like that's
Right,
where
right.
that's where they end.
Right.
Right.
That's where it went.
But that's the end
But
of
that's
the.
where it
That's the end.
stopped.
I'm saying there's all this like more like
So it's
reason.
over.
like academic.
I think it largely is
legitimate
because it got so crazy that people are like, wait a second, like this doesn't make it. What do you mean? Like why couldn't my daughter wear a Moana costume?
Right.
Like why couldn't I? You know what I mean? It's kind of all like, I don't know. It's downwind of blackface. It's not the same thing. I don't consider like blackface isn't cultural appropriation. That is a whole different history.
It's a whole different.
But it's like downwind of like you're profiting off of a thing that other people had to struggle to be. You know what I mean? If you're just like all of this stuff is just looking at it from like the American
or was put down. I
privilege,
think your point
or
about
was
the hair
oppressed,
a
or was
good point.
oppressed.
Like
let's
it
say.
was like the whole, you know, you're gonna say the hair is
So,
unkempt and then copy the style.
on
Right,
Mike's
right.
Very like
House of Blues night, I'm okay with making
House of Blues is black though.
soul food.
Yeah.
I do like black eyed
I mean-
peas and collard greens.
Yeah, I'm not saying any. I don't think any of it's wrong.
'Cause it
I
comes.
think you can.
I think you're fine.
I think that if anything, when we
Just
talk
on-
about like a melting pot being as America,
That's why I think it's
Exactly.
Well, right, but so the thing, like what Matt said, funny enough, white culture, the idea of white culture or white American culture.
I understand what you're saying. You guys are boring me at this point.
cool. Wait, I want to.
What's your topic?
Wait, can I get this thing? I've been trying to say this for 17
Johnny's trying
minutes,
to ask
36
a
seconds,
question for
and
17
40.
minutes.
Thank you.
Go for it.
It kind of whatever. We talk about all these things, but in music, right? Music seems to have a divide, right? Rap is black, but rock is like anything really, but mostly white people do rock. Country music, I know now they're saying country was black people music first.
Yeah.
But country music to me is weirdly the only thing I feel like you need to be from the country to do it, and I don't know why, because I feel like that because they sing about being poor, being raised in a trailer, playing in a pond, having a pickup truck.
Matt can correct me, but I think they say it all originated from the blues.
No,
Basically.
yeah, no, it does.
Yes, that's
Same
true.
with rock.
Right.
Same with rock.
But I'm
True.
saying
Yeah,
is,
yeah,
as
yeah.
far as country
some of it was,
music,
like, combining together stuff, and some of it split
right?
off and became.
But like if a new band came out, right, and they were a rock band, they were black, Chinese, I don't care, right? But when it comes to a country group, artist, whatever, to me, if you're from New York City, you're a country, I feel like that's fake, and I don't know why I have that thing. And I bring this up because there's a few artists, Beyonce. Right, she's from Texas, so she can technically be a country artist, right? But where in Texas is she from? Like, if she's from
I don't know.
right? So I don't know. But now this other, this girl from California, Chanel West Coast, you know her, right?
Yeah,
used to-
yeah, Rob Dyrdek. Yeah.
yeah. She now has a country album out,
Right.
and she's from California, and then she's always tried to be a rap artist,
Yeah,
and because
yeah, I
she's never
remember
made
that.
it in rap, now she went to country because country is big.
Right.
And like she's getting a little momentum, and she's got so many haters because they're like, "Girl, you're not country. You're not from the country. You don't know
Well, I
about the
think-
country."
You know,
Glad brought that
personally-
up. Musically speaking, that's cultural appropriation.
That's what I'm saying.
Exactly.
So this is
Musically
where it gets
speaking, that's what
because
you're
I
saying.
agree with everything we've been saying, but I'm also against this because I'm like, you can't be a country
Right,
artist.
so now-
So you see that's the argument,
that's
pretty
right.
much,
So
or
now
that's
you see what it is,
right.
But imagine it was
Right.
about.
But
where
you're not that.
from
You're not that
and
thing.
not-
and now you're acting like you
But that's
are.
another reason why I'm against it because I'm okay if you were from California and you loved country music and you want to be a country artist, but you've been putting out rap album after rap album, failing.
Exactly.
And now you're going to
And-
country because you know you can probably get. And now,
And when Mike says the
So-
academic argument before it got into this bigger thing that,
Right.
that lost control and then kind of stopped, that's exactly what they were talking about. When you take
right, you're stealing something for
when
your
you're
own
stealing
momentum.
it and it's just like it's like
And it was-
Justin
it was-
Bieber was
right,
was
there's a
because
momentum
he
in
was
the
a kid,
movement or something.
and that isn't how he dressed. That isn't how, but that was how he was presented to the public. That's not how he spoke. Like he was
Eminem.
caught, no, Justin Bieber.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That
Sorry.
Eminem really was like that his whole life.
Right,
That's
right.
why
Okay,
people-
that's what-
But that's why he had a lot
Oh,
of,
right, 'cause
of
that's
leeway.
why-
Yeah,
They're
because
like,
what's
oh,
his
like,
so
Diddy
fighting
did
this so
everything,
much.
gave
Right.
him an
So
image,
it was just like,
right,
yeah,
to
talk,
fit what
talk
the image
this
was
way,
in.
like
then.
use this sort of
Right.
accent. Like he was coached on those kinds
Right.
of things.
Yeah, I can see that
and
being
so now
bad.
it's just like, yeah, they're literally doing that just to make money.
I
off
can
of
see that
him,
being
off
bad.
of this.
Now, if he wanted to be like, if he whatever Justin Bieber, like the music he did back then, and be him, that's a little different,
Well, it just opens up this like, not that it's a complex issue, but this sort of, I don't even know what to say because, okay, right. So like with country music, right? Let's say, and I understand the idea of like, well, if you're not from the country, you can't make country music. My argument would be, it's just music. If that happens
That's
to
where
be
it gets
music you can
confusing.
make well,
And
make it.
that's-
What I would find is like, I don't like. Would be if you act like you're a country person.
Well,
all
don't
of a
see
sudden.
it-
like if suddenly,
Right.
Suddenly
you're wearing boots and talking with a twang,
Well-
and it's like, wait, you're not.
You're not really that.
You're
So
not
this
really
is
that
the thing.
this person.
Look up Chanel West Coast. Is
No,
like
I know
thing.
she
No,
is.
like-
I believe.
right,
I can
but I'm
see.
saying she was.
I can see. I'm sure she's
She
changing
was.
her whole image.
She was. Now she wears cowboy
Right.
hats and like
Right,
the
and that-
dresses,
right.
the cowgirl boots. She played at the Coach Fest with,
Right, and that I
like,
disagree
always.
with. But then,
And
like,
I'm like,
consider, because I think this is along the same lines, if it's fair to say. But there's an argument, right, to be had where, okay, so consider like LeBron's kid, right, like LeBron's son, Bronny, who's like in the NBA.
Brownie.
Bronny.
LeBron
Jr.,
They just call him
Bronny.
Bronny.
Oh,
Right? He grew up
Rich.
richer than 99.9% of people in the world, right? And I'm not saying he doesn't do this, but I'm just using it as an example.
I'm 97,
If
by
he
the way.
growing up or like now acted like he was like a thug, people would be like, you're not a thug. But also he is black. So there's like the argument of, well, how much of being black is where you were born and like how you were actually raised versus what is the predominant black culture. I'm not saying the black culture is thug thing. I'm just using that as an
I get you.
example. really because it's like basketball, right? Like
Yeah.
there's like Ja Morant,
Right.
right? Who like his whole
Puts a gun on
persona,
Instagram Live.
right? His persona is like I was raised in like on the streets and like that's my thing, and it's like fine, I can't comment on any of that stuff. You know what I mean? Obviously, because I'm white, but I just mean, you know, I just can't think of like the equivalent on like on the white side because it's not really the same. Like,
Country is because you white trash versus just like, you know,
yeah, like white,
like
right,
being
right.
in the West
If you're
Coast and then
raised, if
pretending
you're
like you're in
raised as like a
trailer park.
rich white
Right.
guy, and then you want to pretend that you're, I guess people use this with not really Trump, but like I'm trying to think of a politician, like a Republican politician, like JD Vance gets
JD
called,
Vance.
but he actually grew
But
up
he actually
pretty
grew up
poor,
poor.
as I
In a
understand
trailer
it.
park.
So he's not a good example. But it would just be somebody who's like raised rich, like had a good life, and then it's like I struggle too. I have this hard
Right.
life,
Yeah.
and people hate that because it's like,
Yeah.
but you're claiming
It's
a
not
thing,
recognizing
even if you
privilege,
have
right.
even if you have like the tenuous connection.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? You're like, well, I feel like my people are generally this, so I act like my people.
There's a couple
And it's like,
of
but you don't
famous
you can't
black
do
people
that.
that did that too,
Is,
right?
is the art? You know,
Never
But
got
there's a
called
lot of
out
people
for
that-
it.
I mean, I'm a live and let live guy anyway, so I don't really care. And if
No,
you
I
don't-
think people should do whatever
if
they
you
want
don't
to
like
do.
the person or you feel they're fake, then you won't like you're not
Then you
going to buy
wouldn't
any of her albums.
No,
or
no,
her
it
songs.
pisses me off.
It shouldn't piss you
I-
off.
It shouldn't.
No.
That's the thing. I don't think it should piss you
It
off.
shouldn't
Like
piss
it
you
doesn't
off.
bother
No,
me.
no, no, no. It doesn't piss me off that she's doing it. I don't care. I think it pisses me off more because, like, I was always a fan of her. I loved her on that.
Wild 'N Out.
On
No.
what-
Wild 'N Out.
she was on Wild Out, and then the
She was like all his
ridiculous,
shows.
ridiculous,
Fantasy
and I loved her on
Factory.
that.
Fantasy
And then
Factory,
she
that's
did her
where I
rap.
saw
I
her
wasn't a fan
first.
of her rap, but I was like, "Oh, go girl!" Like I supported you.
she's white.
But now, yeah,
It's
but it
funny.
didn't bother.
Like,
You know what's so
But-
funny about her? She definitely got it both ways because
Yeah.
I'm certain that she was accused of culturally
Oh yeah,
appropriating
probably then
Definitely.
too.
rap music.
And now
Right.
she's doing it again.
And
But
now
it-
she's going like the other way, and
Wait,
it's like,
Which
but
now
what-
proves
what
to
is
your
she?
credit
Yeah,
that,
but
that,
what
that,
this-
you know,
that goes
you
to-
can
right.
appropriate
But
any
what's
culture.
pissing
that's
me
kind
off
of what I'm talking about.
now.
It's like, well, what is she then?
Right.
What can she
Exactly.
do?
What pisses me off now, not that she's
She could sing
doing
like
it,
she's from California.
the fakeness of it. Like I was
Right.
saying, a month ago she was dressed in like Chanel West Coast rapping, and now she's wearing cowboy hats and and that's what's pissing me off because it's
But
so,
a lot of people,
it's a fake thing.
But a lot of people in those industries do that, and you don't even know it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know.
You don't even
Most
know
of them are
it. They
personas.
have to, right? They have to.
Well, yeah,
take on-
because you'll go back. Post Malone does it, but I don't feel
Yeah.
like
Well, yeah, the conversation.
Well, but Post Malone, I feel like, has a really good I'm pretty sure Post Malone's another guy who's like accused. I guess it's not like a thing you're guilty of. It's just somebody can say, I think he's doing this. He was accused of cultural appropriation because he kind of started as like a hip hop,
Right.
rap. I wouldn't say it went
Well,
so far as rap,
he-
but he was like definitely hip hop.
He
Like
was called out on it because he did it on purpose and said that he did. He's like, I'm using this to get my foot in the door. I want to make country music, but I'm not gonna get famous off
Wait,
country music.
okay, fair enough.
so
I know he
wanted
said
to
that.
be
but,
country
like,
first.
He always wanted to make country music.
Get out
But
of
it
here,
was harder?
Robert.
He said because 2016.
Wait, where is he
hip-hop's the most
from?
Famous.
I
I
don't
don't know where he's from.
I don't
but
know.
I
Hip hop's
mean-
the most famous genre in the world.
That's
He's
crazy.
Like,
I didn't know
make
that.
These hip hop songs, I could get to the point where I can now make country music.
That's
That
wild.
was always his plan. was
Okay.
to
My
retire.
thing with
Well, my
him,
point
though-
would be wrong then,
But
'cause
my
I
thing
was
with
gonna-
him with country though, when he came into like the country, he worked with other artists and helped them and like sung with them and
So-
kind of like
so when
did
we
that
talk
and then
about-
did country and brought them into his.
Right. When
you
you,
know?
talk about doing it in a way that's respectful towards
Right.
the culture
And embracing
that's
the
what-
whole
that's
thing.
what people are talking about.
Embracing
They're
the whole
saying,
thing.
yeah, I was gonna say with Post
like,
Malone.
go there.
Yeah.
Meet the people.
Yeah, I get what you're saying
kind of.
because there's people that are like, I have no problem if you want to be one or the other and you like, yeah, I really love that style, that look, that image. I want to be part of it and you in it. Or like, oh, that's where the money's at. And I think I can like, and now I'm just going to do
And
it.
chasing
Just to
for
do
money.
it.
Right.
Syracuse, New York.
Who is?
Post Malone.
Oh, that's country. That's 100. No, that's country.
No,
they
it's-
have farms up there.
It's north though.
Syracuse? They have farms.
It's country.
They wear
it's-
cowboy
country-
hats.
But it's
Country
not the
south.
Country.
I think
No,
Country South Midwest.
No,
I don't know.
No.
Johnny
Upstate-
listens to a lot more country music
Yeah,
than I do.
upstate
so
New
Maybe
York.
maybe you can make country music
Upstate
like
New York.
Up-
there's
upstate New York.
Appalachians. Like I get it,
Syracuse
but like
it's not exactly farmland.
No,
It's not-
Syracuse has a lot of farmland. It does. I go up to Syracuse a lot.
yeah, but I don't.
No, they're country.
Well, anyway.
They
Fine,
have people
I
that
just-
walk around with
That was
cowboy
what
hats
he
in
wanted to-
Syracuse.
well, where did he grow up? Was he just born there? He grew up there.
Yeah, where did he grow up?
I mean, there's probably farms in like in Minnesota. They're
Because
not
look,
country.
there's people from California that come from.
Napa.
No, that's someone to be not Berkeley.
I don't know.
Oh wait, he
Bakersville.
Sorry, he
Bakerville.
Moved, he moved
That's
to
country.
Texas, moved to Texas when he was 10.
The guy's all country.
There you go.
The guy's all country.
Well, I just think I was gonna
Chanel
say.
gets coast is from California, L.A.
I was gonna
There's a lot
say.
of cowboys in California.
I was gonna say
No.
and I could be wrong.
Yeah,
because
like
of Matt's point
driving
about
their cars.
that he did it on purpose. But I was gonna say I think the reason Post
That's
Malone
phenomenal.
sort of like beat it and has been able to do multiple
Michael
different
Jackson?
genres
Sorry.
Because people like him so much.
is because people like
He's
him, but
talented.
also
No, he
but
he's
he never
relatable.
really it never felt to me, and I'm
He
not like
was
a big
trying
Post
He was
hard.
Malone
putting
guy.
on it like he was.
He's
putting
like,
on it.
I just make music that I like. If
Yeah.
I like country music, I listen to a country album and I thought it was really good and I want to emulate that, I'll make a country album. If I listen to rap, I'll make a rap album.
He's
If I
not
listen to hip hop,
stealing
I'll
that-
make a
That's
hip
not
hop
the-
He's
album.
not stealing the
He's
whole
not
identity.
trying to be like, I want to be a country star and now
Right.
I'm like,
Right.
Yeah,
you know,
Now he's not
I'm a
going-
hillbilly guy.
What
Like
I
Yeah.
want to
that's
say,
that's
Right.
where like that.
Yeah, he's
and-
not
which
going
is the
from a
argument-
Ferrari to a pickup truck with a piece of straw in his teeth.
What I want to say is I don't
He
think
might.
that
He
he
might.
ever, I don't think that when he said this, which I vaguely remember because it was a long time ago, but that he ever said it in such a way that he's like, yeah, I hate rap, but I'm just gonna do it to get in. I think that he did
That's kinda
enjoy
crazy
the
that he
music
said
he
that.
was making, but he's just like, yeah,
I would never really consider him a
goal-
rapper though.
He
I would say
wasn't, but he
hip-hop.
made hip
He was
hop.
more-
music.
He started
He
with
made-
hip hop.
You think it was
It
hip-hop?
definitely
Hip-hop
wasn't.
music.
It definitely
Really?
wasn't country.
It wasn't pop.
No, it wasn't country.
I don't know if
wasn't
I'd call it
pop.
pop.
I would
In
say-
the beginning,
His,
I
like,
would've
first
thought more-
album, it was
Nah, I
Like
would say it's
R&B
hip-hop.
pop, I would have thought.
maybe R&B, maybe R&B.
Yeah.
His first album definitely was hip hop.
I gotta
all the way
listen
through.
to
It
the
was a
first
trap
album. Maybe I
Yeah, I
don't
could
know.
see R&B ish hip hop. I don't
I
know,
really
but like
thought
definitely
R&B.
not.
But he was always more
Not
of a
pop,
singer.
not
Performance-wise,
country.
he was always more of a
Yeah.
singer than a
He never like
rapper.
rapped, but
Yeah.
I just mean it was definitely not.
But he's also a
country
guy that
music
you
or,
know
like,
loves
pop.
loves music. Like, do you see
He
the
loves music.
No,
Did
right.
you
but
see
that's
the
why I think he
Elvis-
got away from
the Elvis
got-
Presley special, and he did like 2 songs on
That's
that, and
why-
I was like,
That's
oh,
why I think
shit.
he got
all these
away with a
people
lot.
Yeah.
collaborated
Right.
with
You know what I
him,
mean?
even though
Because
he
he's
did say
authentic for
plan
what
to
he is.
retire. Right.
He's
He's like, I
authentic
just like
music.
making music.
He is
I'm a
who he is.
musician.
He's
The
a
music
music.
he makes doesn't-
He's a musician.
He doesn't become that person
Right.
when he makes the music.
He doesn't play
Right.
into
He
a
is still Post
stereotype
Malone.
to
Yeah.
make a
Right,
certain
it's the
amount of
playing
music.
into the
It's the playing
stereotype.
into
Well,
the
that's the thing. There's a
stereotype.
lot of artists out there, musicians that are doing it for a genre, because they. And then there's artists out there just they're true in their whole spirit's just artists, artistry.
just
Whatever I
and
can,
they don't wanna make
whatever
whatever
I
they
feel,
like.
and I feel I'm gonna do it, and that's what Post Malone is. He's one of those, I think. So
Yeah.
I think we give him a pass.
So the bottom line is,
Ooh, we have a new podcast. Pass or fail. Let's start
cooking
that next
soul
week.
food in my house is okay. Opening a soul food restaurant is not. That's the bottom line.
I mean, I'm not
I
not giving
think
you a
you'll
bottom
catch-
line. You would
listen,
get more
I
flack
think you'll
definitely
catch
if you open a
flack for
soul
opening
food.
the restaurant.
That's
do,
what I think.
do I
Yes,
personally
yes.
think that you're appropriating the culture?
Wait,
Not
No.
necessarily.
Michael, share it up
soul
on
food in my
though.
house is fine.
How would you
Open
do
a
it?
soul food
No, but-
restaurant, I might be in trouble.
But it depends.
Yeah, but it also depends. Like if you're like opening a soul food restaurant and you can't cook soul food at all, and it's like a white version of it, that like makes it work. If
Dude,
you
I'd
cook
be a
the
first
best
contender.
soul food. No, but there is a part of it that's like
it's respectful
if you
to the
do
culture.
it
If you're not
well,
trying to change it,
right?
and you're
Like
trying to like,
you know what I'm saying? If you're making soul food, like what'd you say? I don't know.
No, I'm going to do authentic soul food, of course.
Right, and if you do
agree.
it well,
and if you
Yeah.
do it
I'm
well,
just
you'll be
saying.
accused of cultural appropriation.
But
But if the
people
food
will be
is really
okay
that
with
good and it's authentic and it like feels like wow, this is soul food straight out of Louisiana or whatever,
Maybe because
it would
We'll
be
go
more
down to
accepted because it's
Louisiana,
not
try
because
a
you're
bunch
not
of
making
places,
like a
you know what I mean?
No, of course. You just-
caricature.
You
Character
go around.
Of course, if I was going
I
to
can't
open
say
a
that word.
restaurant,
Screw
I'd
that.
want
Travel
it to be
around.
authentic. You know what I mean?
You travel around.
way too many
you try,
syllables
like,
for
the
my brain.
so-called best places,
Yes.
and then you kind of do that to the, you talk to the chefs. You do it to the best of your ability. I think there is a group of people
makes
who would
you
be
feel
like,
well-
you shouldn't be having a soul
Anyway,
restaurant.
they would say that.
When
When
I
I
was in
think
Africa,
I think most
I
people
went to a
would be like,
pizzeria.
it's all right.
and it was not an Italian guy in there,
And
and
how
it was
was it?
some pretty good pizza.
There you go.
And I
Well,
was
other
not,
countries don't
I'm
suffer
not mad.
from
Yeah, I know. I know.
any of this
I'm
stuff.
just
because
saying.
it starts with the melting pot. Those where the whole conversation. It's a melting pot, but it was a melting pot that
It was like it
nobody
was always a
asked
one-way
for.
melting pot.
Yeah, nobody asked for.
It was always you have to contribute
It's so sad.
your culture, but you also have a distinct.
We have such a beautiful country if we can all just fucking be normal.
We have hot
I
dogs
agree.
and hamburgers.
Right, but if like a
Do we
yeah,
have hamburgers?
But are you calling that like
My understanding
just
is that
American or white
hamburgers-
American?
I don't
that
think
the
so.
first hamburger place in the United States was in, where's that school?
School?
Buffalo.
No,
No, by Yale.
No,
Right.
we have
Yale.
wings.
By
We do
Yale.
have wings
It's in
though.
Connecticut.
Louis Lunch.
Yeah,
Louis
yeah.
Lunch. They say they were the hamburger.
But are you saying
it's like
are we
the
saying
old-
this
I
is
thought-
American or white American? Or just American culture?
American.
American culture.
I
Well,
mean,
because this is
well,
the problem.
I
This
mean,
is the
that's the
whole.
thing.
No, but
Buffalo
the-
wings. Buffalo
I
wings
think
are
the
supposed to
people were
be.
German, but
I was
But
going to
this
say
is the
they were
problem.
German. Hamburgers German.
I know, but this is.
no, but it was.
But it wasn't
they
in
were invented
Germany.
here.
It was in
Oh.
America.
But
Because-
this is sort of the problem with the white culture thing, which is like being that American culture has for the at least I don't know, I guess kind of forever, but like not really. It didn't really start as like truly multicultural, obviously. But
For at
since
least
it has been
150
for like
years,
150
I mean,
years,
you have to say.
it's like you can't really call it white American because like if okay, let's say you called hamburgers and you're like that's white American culture.
But it was
a
created by
cookout
German
like
in
like
America.
a white cookout is hot dogs and hamburgers. A black cookout is like I don't know whatever. What, like, not that they don't make hot dog hamburger. I'm just saying.
What do they make? I want to know.
I don't know. I'm just saying, like, if you're gonna say this is white American, but nobody, not much like definitely not white people either, would take issue with like somebody opening up a burger stand and it's black people.
Never.
Right, because that's not like, oh, you're taking our
Because
our
we're
stuff.
not racist.
Sure. I just mean like
All right.
His
let
point
me-
is that
if
because
you
it's
opened up a
American
German if
culture.
if like if
Here's
there
a-
was a
His
family
point is because it's American.
No,
culture,
I know. It's
American, it is
Right,
shared.
right,
It
right.
is
I don't
shared.
care.
Here's what we
amongst
have. We
people.
have German chocolate cake. Believe it or not.
Yeah, I knew that. Yeah.
Named
But
after
you're calling it
German.
American. I'm
It's
just
named
trying
after
to
a
specify.
guy named German.
the
He
guy
wasn't
that
German.
the
It
guy
was
that
just
made
his
it. His
name.
name was
He
German.
was just named German.
I
It's
was
not
thinking-
German.
His last name was German.
No, we
German
do.
chocolate cake. Was
I knew
We
named
do
that.
have
after
buffalo wings, but when you were saying that, I do remember watching a documentary because buffalo wings were from Buffalo, right? But there's this.
Anchor Bar.
So yes, but if you look at the story of buffalo wings, Anchor Bar is in the story, but there was also another restaurant
Who
close
claims they had it
that was a
first.
black person who had that.
Of course.
So they're saying they stole
had it
something
first.
that they stole. So you don't know who really
Right,
did
but
it.
I think most people would say wings is American culture, generally speaking, and not a science.
And it's shared. It's not. You don't
Oh,
get to
it's-
claim
it's
it being
just
white.
American.
The same
A
thing
white
as-
guy might have
as
made it, but it's
hamburger
American.
was
Okay.
made by a
That's-
German guy, but nobody's sitting here saying hamburgers are German.
Okay.
Their
Now,
hamburgers
Wait,
are
okay,
American.
saying
the argument
that,
would be like, if
is
a-
there a black American thing that black
Black
claim?
American culture is the black culture.
No, no, I know, but like something that was made here, that was made by a black person,
Guy.
Hip-hop.
right?
Or
Or
hip-hop.
person, girl,
Hip-hop is
boy.
the thing.
Other
It's
than
made by
like
black
food wise, food.
Americans.
Okay, yeah, but
Food-wise,
food wise,
I don't know.
Peanut butter
peanut butter.
made by a
I
black
don't-
guy. I'm pretty
I
sure.
have no idea.
Really?
Really?
Pretty sure.
I didn't
George
know.
Washington Carver.
Invented peanut butter?
What is wrong
Not
with you?
George Washington.
How
Carver.
much do you like peanut butter?
I don't know. I just like it's just a
Wait.
thing.
No, it's not just a thing.
We're gonna find out in a second.
No, we're gonna find out you're wacko.
Maybe not George Washington.
No,
George
George
Washington
Washington
Carver.
Carver. I'm saying you're saying George Washington Carver
Who's
invented
that?
peanut butter.
Wait,
George
who is this
Washington
guy
Carver.
that you know him?
Who is it?
In 1884, Marcellus Gilmore Edson of Canada
You got the two names.
patented peanut paste,
It's Canadian. Who knew?
the finished product for milling roasted peanuts between two heated surfaces.
You looked up who created peanut butter?
I did.
All right. I whatever. It's the thing I've heard. I'm not.
Can you
that
look
was
up
just
this,
an example.
Look
I don't
up
know.
this guy for him because he did something.
Wait, who do you think George
I
Washington
know
Carver is?
because you're saying
You
it.
seem to know the name.
He did.
I know
In
the name, but I
In
don't associate with
1895,
peanut butter.
Dr. John Harvey Kellogg,
Of course.
Oh,
the
Kellogg's
creator of
cereals?
Yeah.
Kellogg's
No
cereal,
kidding.
patented the process for creating peanut butter from raw peanuts.
Can you
That
look
guy
up
was
George
a
Washington
wacko.
Carver?
Yeah, I really want to know what
that
this
I don't know
guy
why
did.
that name's in my head.
That's
I know who he is,
No,
but I don't think he invented
George Washington
peanut butter.
Carver did not invent
Yeah.
peanut butter,
That's what it returned.
despite the common
It's a
misconception.
common
Oh,
misconception.
all right.
All right. So you didn't make
My
it up.
bad. My bad.
It really says that. I thought you were lying.
Created numerous news. No, that's what I'm. Developed numerous uses for peanuts and other crops. Peanut butter was already in existence before.
Okay.
Oh.
Well, so there you go. Whatever.
Okay.
All right. One wrong. I
That's
don't know.
fair.
He did help to contribute to popularize peanuts and peanut butter, contributing to his rise in popularity. 20th century.
It's just like white. Okay. American culture, right?
Yeah.
Despite the fact that America is and has been predominantly a white country, like by population.
Right.
Anything that is like created for the whole of America is considered American culture.
American.
But because there's a smaller subset of all these other cultures, they have. And I'm not saying they do. I mean, they do in this regard. They have more of a claim to the things that they created as being like a cultural thing to them.
Right.
You know what I mean?
No, I got it.
Where it's like if 75% of the country decides like, well, we made hamburgers, it's like it doesn't really matter. Like nothing
You're most
changes.
of the
But if
country.
13, right, you're most of the country. Like everybody's making hamburgers now.
Right.
If 13%, they're like, we made this thing and it's really great, and then the 75% takes it. That's like
looks
well, you're
bad.
appropriating.
Yeah, it
We
looks
made a thing and then you guys stole it and now profit off of it.
So
Where like the
sense.
75 can't really do that.
if you come to my July
But this is
4th
only-
party, we're having buffalo wings
When?
and German chocolate cake.
When?
My July 4th party.
Well,
In Maine.
You're asking when it's going to be?
we want to do closing
Yeah,
thoughts. Are we over
aren't you-
time?
aren't you? Yeah, we're
think
Because
over
I do
time.
have a closing thought on this
Wait.
whole thing.
Closing thought.
I just have one.
I have a question. Wait,
You
you
got- you can
you're
have-
away July 4th.
Yeah,
How you having a party?
That's who's gonna do it
in Maine.
in Maine.
Can I come?
I mean,
You're
sure.
not invited.
I'm not invited.
Another thing you're not invited to.
I'm the only family here, non-family family that doesn't get invited to
I got to
things.
take care of my dog.
I think
Hot dog.
but the closing thought on this, because I've always felt this way about cultural appropriation, like the conversation about it. Still now, even though it's like doesn't get talked about a lot more. I think the issue was always that it's not like you have to show proper respect or you're doing this or you're doing that. It's like some people are always going to take advantage of anything that like sells, right? When we're talking about like profitability. But I think the only solution to it is for everybody to see it, particularly in America. I don't really care about the rest of the world, as like a consider it a melting pot and there should be, like you said, it's a compliment. It should be looked at that way. Like everybody should be given the benefit of the doubt in all directions about things that you do that you enjoy. You know what I mean? If you're like, and it goes to dreadlocks. Like, look, I would never have dreadlocks.
You look
but if a
sexy.
white guy wants to have dreadlocks, and I can't speak for like black people, obviously, but I just don't understand if it's like somebody's going, I like that hairstyle and I want it. It seems to me to be so counterproductive.
You know what it is?
To boo-hoo that person for that.
wanna
Or like
put
if
it
a
in
girl
more-
wants to wear a Moana costume, to say you can't wear that because she's Hawaiian and you're not, that creates a divide that didn't exist a second ago.
You wanna put
and
it-
that's weird to me.
You
Like
wanna
that's
put
the
it on
issue
more
with
of
it.
an
I think-
individual scale. Than
I
saying,
think
like,
most people think that way.
Yeah,
Most
I
people-
agree.
most
I
people
think that's
don't.
why
and
it went away.
That's why it went away.
I think that's why it went away.
And like with everything in this country, and we'll talk about this next, this will lead right into your topic.
There you go.
The squeaky wheel gets the most oil.
great
right?
divide.
Right, true.
The
So it gets talked
1%
about.
of the squeakers,
Yeah.
right, gets
I
talked
agree.
about.
I agree with
think-
that.
I think most people don't care. I think most
Yeah.
people don't care if I grow dreadlocks, if I make soul food.
Hmm?
As long as it's good, they don't really care. I don't care what music I listen
wanna
to
try
or
your
play
soul
or
food.
whatever.
As long as you're not doing it for benefit outside of you genuinely
Even if
like
you're doing
the
it
thing.
for
I
benefit,
was
No,
gonna
I
say.
think
it's
I
good,
think most people
as long
care.
as you're honoring that society,
I-
that culture.
I
as
wouldn't
long
be
as-
bothered
I
by
don't
it.
think
Right.
most people would care.
I-
I agree.
I think
Right.
I think the 1%.
I think that's why it went away
the
largely.
1%,
And
those
I
are the
think
people
that's
that
why
are
it
going to
went
be
away.
outside my soul food restaurant, picketing, calling the news, and saying this white guy can't make soul
I
food.
kind of agree with that. Like, if he's so good at, like, he loves soul food. Like,
If you're
it was
so
his
good,
favorite.
that'll always solve
And he
any-
and then he was like, I'm gonna learn this inside out, and like he does it home.
That's
And
the
Yeah,
and then he-
but the
right.
cultural
and then he owns
appropriation
to open a place
culture.
down the block.
Most people
like
would appreciate it.
Mike
Most
Soul
people would
Food, and so he
appreciate it.
goes in.
Mike's
He's a white guy, but like, dude,
Mike's
this
House
is
of
great.
Blues.
I
Yeah.
love. I've lived for soul, and he
Well, this
explains
is the
that.
thing.
People like
The academic
you know?
version of cultural appropriation
That's
is okay with that.
That's
Okay.
The downwind version that became this like part,
1%.
pretty much
The
cancel
1%.
culture thing.
Right, right.
The 1%,
1%.
the loudest people who were like, "This is right. Nobody should take our stuff.
They'll
These
be
people
throwing
shouldn't
rocks
take
to
their
my
stuff."
window. Right.
They would be angry regardless.
Okay.
He could have lived in Mexico or
Right,
were
right.
we talking about soul food? Wherever.
Soul food.
He could have lived in Louisiana for half his life.
right.
But if he's making what is considered black food as
Yeah.
a non-black guy, it would just be cultural appropriation to those people.
The closing thought
The
is
academic perspective would be like he did like the work. He's not just saying, "Oh, I live in a neighborhood where people really like soul food,
So I'm making soul
so I'll
food.
make soul
So I can
food.
make some money,
So
right.
I'll
Right,
make
right,
the
right.
cheapest version of soul food and make some
The
money."
closing thought
That's
is
kinda-
don't be a phony. Just don't lie
phony.
about what you're
Such
into
an
and what you
interesting
like.
word.
Matt had the closing thoughts.
He
Don't
did.
fake
Mike, take your sip and get ready to close out.
Don't fake it.
Oh, all right.
Thanks for listening,
know?
everyone. And as always,
Stay angry, annoyed, and amused.